sort of way on the other side of the sci-fi spectrum, another movie that really only got made because of the success of Star Wars was Alien. And it's interesting. Part of the reason why I'm really excited about this project, History of Awesome, is to realize that those two movies existed in the same space in the same year, and very different. Both sci-fi movies, but incredibly different in tone and their vision of the future and all the rest of it, and would go on to spawn iconic media franchises.
It's funny because you call it a sci-fi movie, but I still think of Alien first and foremost as a horror movie.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree with that.
But it's in a sci-fi context. But I think for me, the thing that really makes that movie work for me, apart from sort of the sort of implied sexual violence, kind of at the heart of all of the terror in it, is just a fantastic art direction. Just the visual design by H.R. Giger.
It's incredible, right?
It just it makes that movie for me, and there's nothing that's as identifiable as that style for me from that period.
Yeah, the art direction and production design are superb, and like you said, it's a horror film. It is the ultimate haunted house movie. It's a haunted house, and there's no way out. You're just stuck there, and it's wonderful. I also love about Alien that you don't really know who the protagonist of Alien is until almost the end of the movie.
It's very unconventional, in the way that everyone does share the screen in that way. It's a very slow build. I watched Alien again a couple of years ago, and it was very different than I remember. The full front third of that movie, I was like, wow, there's a lot going on here.
Everyone remembers Ripley as being, because of the series that followed it, everyone remembers it being Ripley's series, but you kind of are expecting Dallas, the Tom Skerritt character, to be the lead. He's the traditional Hollywood dude.
And her victory is almost sort of accidental or incidental, I guess. She just happens to be the person who lives through it all.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Which is one of the great themes that carries the horror. Everybody's in danger. If you don't know what's going to happen in Alien, then everybody really feels like they're in absolute danger through the whole thing. Also, there's an evil robot that you don't know is an evil robot. Usually in movies when you have an evil robot, it's some big metal box. It's fish and plankton, and but in this case, the last 20 minutes of the movie, holy crap, evil robot!
Ash is a robot.
Yeah, it's a fantastic twist.
It is.
And if you go back and watch it, Ash, played by Ian Holm, he acts totally like just a regular human. He does weird little mannerisms and stuff. There's nothing that would indicate that he's a robot earlier in the film, which of course just adds to the insane surprise when he suddenly weirdly rolling up a magazine and trying to shove it down her throat.
If for some reason you haven't seen this movie, this is a movie where Bilbo Baggins tries to choke somebody with a magazine. It's amazing.
His central processor is not working correctly, but that's his method of murder.
Alien became such an iconic movie and started so many tropes that, things that you would sort of make fun, like in space, no one can hear you scream, was the tagline for that movie. Now it's sort of a silly thing that people would poke fun at.
It's a cliche.
Yeah, it was so good at what it did and became such a part of pop culture and our consciousness that the tropes of the super strong female protagonist in sci-fi, not that was necessarily the very first movie to ever do that, but it elevated these things to a higher level of sort of pop culture consciousness.
Oh yeah,
Ripley's a fantastic character.
There are two things that I really love about it that we haven't covered off on yet, though. The first is that they don't bother to explain anything that's going on, right? There's no backstory for the alien. There's no big mystery to uncover. It's just survival, and that's it. That's all they have time for. Who cares about the rest of it, right? And I love being able to sort of speculate as a viewer about what the background of all this stuff is.
The space jockey, you don't know what his story is.
And the second thing is that chestburster scene. I mean, that just came out of nowhere. And even today, I think watching it, if you're not aware that that's coming up, as indeed I think the actors weren't aware during the actual shoot, that was a surprise to them as well. So those terrified reactions on the faces of his fellow diners are largely not acting. I mean, those people are really terrified. Wow. But that sets the movie off in this whole other direction, and suddenly you realize what's at stake here.
Oh yeah, I remember I saw that scene. It was on at my cousin's house. It was on HBO or something, and we saw that scene, and then that was it. I didn't see the rest of the movie for 3 years after that.
My dad used to own a comic book shop, and in 1982 he was having a convention, and somebody had that movie at one of their tables playing on a videotape. And I remember as a 10-year-old kid, I'd tell my dad, hey, I'm going to go wander around. And I would just go and sit in front of this guy's booth and just watch that movie as a 10-year-old kid. And my dad obviously was busy with other stuff. But that movie impacted me tremendously just as a young kid.
Another thing, Another thing I love about it is just how it's these working class schlubs who are thrown into the situation. Yeah. It's not the traditional space hero, and it takes something from Star Wars in that it's very much a used, lived-in world. It's not the clean, polished Starship Enterprise. It's this grimy, grungy like truck in outer space that they're on, basically.
And because they're ordinary characters, you get this wonderful moment, with Ian Holmes' head laying on a counter. They plug it back in. How do we kill it? Right. We can't.
Right.
That's just one of the best moments. So these ordinary people are powerless against this threat. It's just so great.
Yeah.
It really is a movie of moments, with the chestburster scene and the big twist with the android. It's just fantastic. One of the things, being sort of the science nerd that I am, I like the aspect, sort of the hard science of it, compared to, again, I am a giant Star Trek fan, but it's very fast and loose with the actual science. It's kind of more like magic a lot of times. And it was obvious that a lot of care went into Alien in that sense. I guess they do have flamethrowers on their ship, so maybe not too much care. But, I liked it, intrigued, when I watched that movie when I was younger, just sort of they're out there to make money for a corporation, and they were put to sleep because there's no faster than light travel or anything like that. I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah.
A lot of those similar tropes were copped for The Abyss as well, where it's sort of oil rig workers and like this sort of the working class person confronting this sort of supernatural or numinous being, and just being just dwarfed by it, both psychically and physically.
But if Ed Harris had been on that spaceship, they'd have killed the alien.
Quite likely.